Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video, the second video in our series building a brand new park called American Dream, a northeastern small park very inspired by Six Flags Great Escape, Canopy Lake Park, Funtown, Splashtown. If you've ever been to those parks, you're going to see a lot of similarities with this. Today, we do some pretty awesome things, actually. We finish off the Ferris wheel that we placed in the last episode, so we completely get that set, and I would call that done. We do the queue line, and we also do the surrounding area. We also make a coffee shop called the Premium Roast, and we also, crazy enough, build a roller coaster. I know. I was actually trying to tell myself, don't build a coaster for the first 2 episodes. Couldn't do it, so... You know what? We already have a roller coaster. It's not done by any means. It's basically just a layout, and I did a little bit of smoothing. But there is a roller coaster in the park by the end of the episode, which is nice. So right now, we are kind of just editing the queue line. I absolutely hate that Planet Coaster 2 just got rid of squared off queue lines. That made no sense to me whatsoever. Like, I have no idea why Frontier decided to get rid of that. That was such a nice feature, a part of the first game. And now it's just gone. So, again, Planet Coaster 2 is just an odd game where, it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps backward, you know what I mean? It's really, really strange, the things that Frontier decided to do, because really, the game is amazing. Like, the game on paper should literally be perfect. But crazy enough, it's not. So it's just like, it's so odd to me. Like, there's just like these little nitpick things that I really just, I don't even know what I'm doing there with the second Ferris wheel. Anyway, I just don't know what's going on, but there's just so many things where you would just think like it would already be in the game and it's not. And it just, yeah, I don't understand that. But, I mean, there's definitely a lot of pros with it, too. Like attaching scenery to rides. I love how you can do that, even though I don't really attach these stars. I kind of just place them there. But, I'm sure we're going to be doing some custom flat rides in this build, which will be pretty nice. So, as you can see, I'm putting 2 stars on each side, and it will give the ride its name. It's going to be called the Star Wheel, which I think is, pretty fitting, kind of fitting with that Americana vibe. Again, the whole front of the park, actually, not even just the front, the whole park essentially would have been built in the 1960s, 1970s, so probably like 1968, the park opened up to the public, and with that, it would basically be just a generic theme park with individual themes kind of throughout, if that makes sense. So there's not going to be like a big overarching theme with the entirety of the park. But I mean, there might be some smaller areas. I'm sure we're going to have a Western area. If you go to Great Escape, which was formerly Storytown USA before it was bought out by Six Flags, then you would know that they have a really awesome Western area called Ghost Town USA. Or no, wait, no. Sorry, it's just called Ghost Town. And it's an amazing area. But the thing is the Great Escape is not like themed. There's not really themed areas with the Great Escape. You really just have Ghost Town, and then they also have like a hot rod area too. But like, if you go to the Great Escape though, it's not really a theme park. There's not like an overarching theme in each thing. So that's kind of what we're going for. It's definitely what we're building right now. American Dream is definitely an amusement park. And then, the owners kind of just did some themed areas here and there. But this front area would mainly be kind of like this American patriotic theme. Again, there's not really like a theme with that. It's more of just kind of a general color palette, as well as, maybe some names like, Liberty Flyer or Freedom Flyer or something like that, But obviously right now we have the Star Wheel, and of course it has the patriotic colors, so... and honestly, it looks really nice. Right now, we're making a queue line cover, and I really, really like these style of queue line covers. If you go to Six Flags New England, where, my home park, if you go there, their Scrambler, which is like right next to Flashback and Pandemonium, it has a queue line cover similar to this. It's a lot smaller, obviously, but man, I freaking love the look of it. It's so classic, it looks amazing. Obviously, it's hard to make things kind of look a little bit more worn down in this game. So, it does look a little bit brand new, even though the style of the queue line cover would be made in like the 60s and would be pretty old. It's hard to make it look that old, if that makes sense, because the color palettes in the game and everything. I might go back and make everything super faded or something. I could try to do that, make it look a little bit more worn down, but we can just say for now, like, they just put a fresh coat of paint on it, because at American Dream they care about the guest experience. But yeah, so now I'm just placing some railings around the queue line. This is pretty boring stuff, but I did want to do some custom fencing. I don't want to just have the generic game rails on all of the fencing, because I did that for the carousel, and I mean, it looks fine. I don't have a problem with it, but I just don't want to make that a regular occurrence. Jeez, I keep stuttering over everything. But yeah, the fencing options in the game are very odd to me. I talked about it in the last episode. Why get rid of the chain link fencing? Why get rid of the plain wood fencing? I don't understand. I really do not get it. In my opinion, everything, I mean, I'm hoping it comes out in a DLC, but I really think everything from the previous game, at least most things, there was some useless stuff, like in the old game, like a giant milkshake. I mean, what am I going to do with that? But, I think everything from the old game should have been in this game already from the get-go, and then DLC should have just added more, but they clearly went a different route with that. I'm hoping in the first DLC that we get, I have no idea what it's going to be, but I really hope the first DLC that we get, and I hope it's soon, is we get a little bit more options when it comes to fencing. Now, you saw like the middle fencing there on the queue line. I did that pole style. I like to do on the outside of the queue line a more like a fencing where it's like it's more secure, if that makes sense. Like you would have to like hop over it to get in line, while the other ones, to kind of fill in the switchbacks and stuff, they just, most parks would do a style of fencing that's just like kind of pipe. So, and then we're filling that little blank space there with some gravel, with that gravel paint texture, which I do love. That's actually a really good paint texture for the game. So, but I couldn't really, the park would not put like greenery there or anything. They would just kind of fill that in and call it a day. Here we're doing some more soil texture, which I absolutely love as well. I love the textures that they did, the terrain paint that they added in this game. It looks absolutely amazing, and I love how like you can just kind of paint things for soil, which saves on piece count too. They do have the soil pieces, but why use those if you could just use this? And even I will say this is like a bit more of a duller soil. The other soil is very like it looks like it's taken care of, but I'm fine with this. It looks nice. Oh, and here we go. We're making the sign for the Star Wheel. I do try to do it with all the big letters, but I just don't like the way it looks in the end, so I end up doing just the star with the big letters, and then the bottom part I end up doing just with the text. I love the signage in this game. That is one of the big pluses that they ended up doing. It looks absolutely amazing. There's so many different options and designs that you can go with. Plus, they just like the customability of it is really, really nice. They did a fantastic job. So, but yeah, so now here's the sign. We're trying to make that look as nice as possible. Yep, just scrolling through different fonts and everything. Try to get one that's pretty generic but not boring. And yeah, look at that. Now we're just putting some poles on the back, and I love how you can scale down items, which is awesome. Because that was the biggest problem I think with the original game, is that everything was just massive. Everything was just freaking huge. So to make things being able to be scaled down is really awesome. And now this is where we're gonna kind of fill in this blank space. And I said, why not put a coffee shop? I think a nice small little cozy coffee shop would be really, really awesome. If you go to the Great Escape, they have a really awesome coffee shop called the Boot Hill Cafe. It's actually a Starbucks, which is pretty cool. But it's a really like tiny building, and although I wouldn't say this is necessarily inspired by it, at least the building style, I would say like the idea of a small tiny coffee shop kind of filling in a little bit of a blank space is definitely inspired by the Great Escape. It's called the Boot Hill Cafe, which is awesome. And you'll see later I actually attempt to build like a somewhat of a boot hill. It's not going to actually be, I wouldn't put a boot on top of it. If you go to the Great Escape, they have a hill at like the front of the park, and when I say hill, like it is a hill, like it is a steep hill that you walk up. Here I am just kind of putting in some corrugated pieces, making another corrugated roof. It looks really, really nice. Again, you can just scale down the pieces and it looks awesome. But yeah, it's a literal hill, and on top of it is a boot that you can just walk into. So that's freaking cool. And I tried doing something similar to that in this. It obviously does not work out, and I get rid of it like right away. So it's like literally going to be 3 seconds of this time lapse where I'm making a big hill, and then I get rid of the hill. But yeah, so this is kind of like the general shape of the building, and then I just kind of decorate it up a little bit, see what I can do. End up using some art shapes to kind of make like this little concrete balcony thing. I think it ends up looking really nice. I did want to like kind of cover the sides of it, and I couldn't figure out how to do it until I just thought of using the banners, which actually ended up working out pretty well. It actually looks pretty nice. I wouldn't say it looks perfect, but I just don't want like the big chunk of gray shape there, if that makes sense, you know? I didn't want it to be so bare, so ended up just kind of moving that around. Boom. I think that looks really, really nice. And then, of course, they have this awesome little coffee cup that we're just going to put down. I try making like an actual sign up here, and honestly, I just didn't like how it looked with like on the little balcony. So I end up getting rid of it. Premium roast is what we're going to end up calling this, even though it's really, to most guests, it's going to be known as coffee shop. Or, you know, to most guests, it's going to be known as just coffee. You ever notice, like, when you go to a theme park, you don't actually remember the name of, like, a restaurant that you go to? At least, like, you know, you go to a regional theme park, you kind of just, most guests just, like, you know, ask, like, where they can get pizza or where they can get burgers. And then they go. They don't really stop and remember the names, but, you know, it's a huge part of theme parks. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm so sorry. But yeah, here, this is where we're actually going to put the sign that says Premium Roast Coffee. I tried doing it on like an angle, making it look a little bit more wacky, but end up scrapping that idea. But yeah, overall, the building is pretty simple, but it looks elegant enough for me to call this Premium Roast Coffee. Plus, I think, you know, Premium Roast Coffee is just like a, you know, it's a good name. Plus, with like the gold little line there in the middle, I think it looks really nice. So, and we're going to be squeezing this right in between the main path and then, of course, a little side path, which is going to be another staff path. And then behind the main buildings on our little Main Street area, I'm going to try my best to do a little office building that park management would probably be sitting in. Here, I messed up the path so bad, and I had to figure out how to, like, redo it. But again, pathing tool in this game is just amazing, so it ended up working out very, very, very well in the end. But I had to recolor some. Now, I tried to do... I do like the pathing, but part of me kind of wishes, like, the paths would just do what I want. They don't really work with terrain that well, at least that's as far as I've noticed. And if you have any tricks, you know, for that, please let me know down in the comments. Like, I would love to, you know, be able to work the terrain a little bit better with the paths, but right now I'm kind of just adapting to, you know, what I have. Now there's like this little awkward gap over here between the carousel queue line and then the pathway we're on right now. And so you'll see in a minute, I'm going to place a door here, and then I start to do a little seating area, because I really had no idea what else to put there, because there's just such a small little like awkward crevice. So I ended up just doing a little seating area, and I actually really like how this turned out, because it's kind of like a quiet little quaint seating area that you can only be accessed through this one pathway. And it's really awesome. I really, really like it. So it ended up coming out really, really nice. Again, like the hill, like it kind of goes down the hill with the pathway, and I love that look. It is a little it's a little sharp. It's a little sharp. But you know, if this park, you know, being built in the 60s with the stamped concrete pathway, it would have, you know, some wacky angles. You know, it would be, you know, not taken care of over the time. And that's also another thing that I want to do with the park, is that you don't want to use stamped concrete, or at least like the textured paths, for the majority of this park. I'm only going to be using that for pretty much the front half. If you go to a lot of parks nowadays, you know, you go to Six Flags New England or Six Flags Great Escape, you'll notice that they've switched to asphalt. Like the parks, when they opened, they had a lot of stamped concrete. You know, Six Flags New England's Main Street used to be entirely stamped concrete. but now is just asphalt. And same thing with the Great Escape, is that it used to have a lot of stamped concrete, but now it is entirely asphalt. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's reasons why they switch. I'm sure it's some maintenance costs. Maybe it's probably a lot harder to maintain it's a lot harder to maintain the stamped concrete rather than the asphalt. But man, the stamped concrete just looks so much better. But I'm trying to get that realistic look, and I think this park, over time would have tried to keep the stamped concrete as long as they could, but eventually they're going to pave over a lot of parts with asphalt, and that's why we're using the asphalt path there, and it kind of just has this rapid transition. This is where I'm trying to build a little boot hill. It does not work out. Like, you're going to see right. Yeah, see, I said, nope, not doing that. Getting rid of that right away, which I think is a little funny. But I try to just play around with the terrain a little bit, just to kind of I'm trying to, again, keep the park a little bit hilly, not like insanely hilly, not all hills, but I would like to keep the park somewhat, terrain based, to just try to make it, have a little bit more character to it. And so here we're kind of starting up a pathway up the hill. I think it looks really, really nice. It turns out pretty good. I don't know what I'm going to put up there. I'm thinking a sky ride actually would be pretty nice. A lot of parks, Canopy Lake Park has a sky ride, so does the Great Escape. So I would love to, do a sky ride up there. Here I am kind of just extending the path, making that asphalt. Again, so we're going to do mostly asphalt, but there's going to be smaller sections that are stamped concrete to kind of show like the park is willing to keep it around, but only in small areas. And here is where we start building American Thunder. I honestly don't know what I'm going to name it yet. But American Thunder kind of just makes sense to me, since, the park is called American Dream. And this coaster, I'm assuming, would have opened up with the park, maybe in 1968. So, or maybe a couple years after. I don't know. I haven't come up with a full storyline yet. It's crazy because I see a lot of, Planko YouTubers. They do like these full storylines. There's one park, oh my gosh, I think it's Beyond Drew TV. He's doing, Grand America, Mid-States Grand America, or Great America. I don't know what he always messes up the name himself, so the fact that I'm messing it up is actually not that bad. But yeah, he's doing that, and he has like this full storyline with a park founder and everything. And I am attempting to do something similar with James Fields. We have the quote from him at the beginning of the park on the entrance, and he will be the founder of American Dream. However, I'm obviously not as detailed because I don't really have a storyline yet. I'm kind of just making it up as I go. So we'll see how that turns out. But here I am, kind of just making this Woody, and it's a big wooden coaster. It's 100 and something feet tall, and it's gonna have a nice out and back layout at first. But I realized, like, if I just do an out and back, it is so short. The ride is so short. And I don't want to do that, so I end up kind of doing something a little strange, something that you probably wouldn't see on a coaster like this, which is definitely, it's definitely a bit of a stretch. But we do end up doing this big turnaround, end up doing two more turnarounds actually, in the middle of the layout, if that makes sense. Usually you only see these big turnarounds on the ends of roller coasters, but here we're kind of doing it in the middle, so it's kind of cutting through the structure. And honestly, I really like it. I think the layout works out pretty well, and it ends up coming along pretty nicely. It's just, there definitely is, not a coaster like this, at least that I can think of. And I'm like a pretty big coaster nerd, so I can't think of a coaster like this. But you know what? Hey, it works. I like the layout. It's unique enough, So I think I'm gonna keep it, which is pretty awesome. So the coaster is mainly inspired by the Comet at Six Flags Great Escape. However, clearly, breaks away from that a ton. The ending is definitely inspired by the Comet. The last, the Double Down's inspired by the Comet. But obviously you have this big hill and then a turn into the turnaround that first, at the beginning of the ride, and so that would be more inspired by, honestly, just like some bigger roller coasters. Like look at American Eagle, or even Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure. However, Shivering Timbers is not even this is not even on the same level as that ride, so I'm not going to even try. But I mean, I like to think that people would, praise this coaster specifically. They would come to American Dream and they would ride it and they would praise this coaster for the amount of airtime that it has, because it really is just airtime galore. This thing has a lot of airtime hills, and I think I think it's gonna be a big favorite in the park as well. Here I did just a bit of smoothing, not too much, and that's my thing is like, you might want a glossy smooth ride, but this is supposed to be, a much older wooden coaster, and they're taking care of it over the years, so they're trying to keep it smooth, but trust me, it's not gonna be as smooth as they want it. And so I do want to have that kind of show in the POV with like a little bit of defects, and here you do get a little bit of a sped up POV. It's definitely a POV. I'll give a full POV when we actually decorate the ride and stuff, because we don't end up doing that in this video. But yeah, so that's going to be pretty much wrapping up the time lapse. So we do have a coaster now, which is awesome, and then we're going to finish it, in the next video. But yeah, let's quickly just jump into the real-time portion, and yeah. So here we are, American Dream. Yay! We're back at the front entrance. I love this entrance so much. It's awesome. I still have to put fencing around the fountain. I keep forgetting. I'm so sorry. But yeah, now we're coming through the front entrance, and we're going to check out what we did for the day. Nothing changed on Main Street. I'll let you guys know going forward if I do change anything. I will keep you updated. But yeah, so now, of course, we're going to be taking a right, and we're going to be heading into the new area that we built, or the little bit of an area that we built. Starting off with the coffee shop, the Premium Roast, right there, yeah. This thing came out really nice. I think it looks really good. It's very cozy, and it fits into the area. Kind of have like a little porch here, which I really like. The pathway didn't work in my favor, but I really do like how it looks, and it came out pretty nice. Over here, we have the seating area. Let's come up here and just kind of show like that downslope. See, it is a little sharp, sadly, but I do like it. I do like it, and it's very realistic. It's very quaint and cute and quiet. I love that. It's awesome. But yeah, of course, now over here we also have yep, there we go, showing off the hill, which I really like. I love how it kind of just slopes up like that. That looks amazing. And of course, with like the flower bed and stuff to the right, keeping some of the trees there, which is awesome. And then, of course, we have the big old Star Wheel. Look at that. That's awesome. It looks great. The sign looks great. The ride, I love the color scheme. I love how you can just individually color like the gondolas separate from the ride. I love that. The queue line, I love it. It looks super realistic. I love the cover. I think it looks absolutely amazing. And yeah. And then, of course, over there, American Thunder. Again, I don't know if I'll keep that name. You guys can let me know in the comments if American Thunder is a good enough name. But yeah, it looks really awesome, kind of just like in the back of the park. I think it's gonna look really good among the trees and everything. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the entirety of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you guys feel free to subscribe and like the video, I'm going to keep posting these videos until like the park is actually done. But yeah, until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.